My cousin's laughter cut deeper than any knife. There I was, sitting in the stuffy law office, my daughter Mia clutching my hand, while they mocked me, calling me a glorified gardener who'd never inherit a dime. They thought they'd walk away with Uncle Richard's fortune, but they didn't know my 12-year-old held a secret that would burn their world to ashes. I'd spent years caring for my uncle, listening to his war stories, while they couldn't be bothered to call. Now, with his will about to be read, Mia's calm smile and that worn leather journal in her hands made my heart race. What truth was she hiding? One thing was clear. This room was about to explode. I sat there in Mr. Abernathy's law office, my cheeks hot, wishing the floor would swallow me whole. Mia, my 12-year-old, squeezed my hand, her small fingers steady against my trembling ones. Her calm brown eyes locked on mine, and that worn leather journal Uncle Richard gave her rested in her lap. I didn't know what she was planning, but her quiet strength kept me anchored. My cousins, Jake and Philip, thought they had this in the bag. They were wrong. Uncle Richard was my rock growing up. My dad walked out when I was a toddler, leaving me with just Mom and a pile of bills. Uncle Richard stepped in, not with money, but with time. I'd sit on his porch swing, the wood creaking under us, while he spun stories of World War II, sprinting through Normandy's fields, his boots sinking in mud, the air thick with smoke. The smell of his pipe tobacco, sweet and warm, wrapped around me like a hug. "You're tougher than you know, Rachel," he'd say, his blue eyes crinkling. I was maybe 10, but those moments made me feel seen. When Mia was born, she became his shadow. At 5, she'd perch on a stool, watching him move chess pieces across his battered oak board. "This kid's a tactician," he'd chuckle, teaching her how to trap a king in 3 moves. By 12, she was fierce, her quick mind outsmarting me every game. Uncle Richard loved her fire. He'd ruffle her hair and say, "Mia, you'll run the world someday." She'd grin, clutching that chessboard like a trophy. When he passed last month at 87, my heart broke. I'd spent years caring for him after Aunt Clara died, bringing him chicken soup, sorting his meds, wiping tears when he forgot her name. Jake, now some big-shot banker in Seattle, sent a card once a year. Philip, who lived 20 minutes away, was too busy flipping houses to visit. They left Uncle Richard to me, and I carried him with love. But in that office, their wives' sneers made me feel like nothing. Candace, Philip's wife, had smirked. "Rachel's here." I suppose someone had to water his plants. Jake's wife chimed in. "She thinks playing nurse earns her a cut. Blood family gets the real stuff." Their laughs hit like punches. I wanted to scream. I'd bathed Uncle Richard when he couldn't lift his arms. I'd listened to his stories until his voice gave out. But I stayed quiet, my throat tight for him. Mia, though, was different. She sat straight, her black dress slightly too big, her fingers tracing the journal's cracked spine. That morning, she'd whispered, "Don't worry, Mom. Uncle Richard made sure they can't hurt us anymore." Her words hung in my mind, heavy with promise. What did she know? What had he told her? The office was suffocating. Polished desks, a ticking clock, the faint smell of old coffee. Jake and Philip slouched in their chairs, smirking, their wives adjusting diamond bracelets. They thought Uncle Richard's fortune was theirs. His house, his savings, his legacy. But Mia's small smile, the way she held that journal like a weapon, made my pulse hammer. Something big was coming. I could feel it. Have you ever been underestimated by a family who thought they knew better? Drop your story in the comments below. The air in Mr. Abernathy's law office grew heavier, like a storm about to break. My cousin's laughter lingered, their smug chuckles bouncing off the polished wood desks. I sat frozen, my hands clammy, Mia's fingers still curled around mine. Her small frame was steady, her eyes fixed on the journal in her lap, its leather edges worn from Uncle Richard's hands. Jake and Philip sprawled in their chairs, their tailored suits wrinkled from confidence. They thought they'd already won. My chest tightened, their words, glorified gardener, not blood family, slicing deeper with every replay in my head. I wanted to disappear, but Mia's quiet resolve kept me there. Jake leaned toward Philip, his voice low but not low enough. She's delusional if she thinks Uncle Richard left her anything big. The house is ours, right? Philip nodded, a smirk tugging at his lips. Obviously. We're his nephews. She's just... charity. Candace, flipping her sleek ponytail, caught my eye and grinned. Blood family gets the real stuff. Rachel's just... extra. Their wives giggled, the sound sharp and mean, like coins clinking in a jar. My throat burned. I stared at the floor, the gray carpet blurring as my eyes stung. Mia's hand tightened, her nails digging into my palm. She didn't flinch. I wanted to scream. I'd spent years with Uncle Richard, not them. I'd changed his bandages when his hands shook too much to hold a spoon. I'd cooked him meatloaf, his favorite, and sat through his stories of Aunt Clara's laugh, even when he repeated them 3 times in an hour. Jake hadn't called in years, too busy with his Seattle corner office. Philip, close enough to drop by, never did. His real estate empire always came first. They'd left Uncle Richard alone, but I'd carried him. I'd loved him. And now they sat there, acting like I was nothing. Mia shifted beside me, her black dress rustling. She glanced up, her eyes fierce, like she could see right through their greed. "They're wrong, Mom," she whispered, her voice soft but sure. "Uncle Richard saw everything." Her words hit me like a lifeline. I looked at her, my 12-year-old with a chess player's calm, her thumb brushing the journal's spine. What did she mean? What had he told her? That journal, given to her just weeks before he died, felt like a bomb waiting to go off. My heart thudded, hope flickering through my shame. The room quieted as Mr. Abernathy cleared his throat. He adjusted his glasses, the faint tick of a wall clock filling the silence. "Let's begin," he said, his voice dry as the papers he held. Jake and Philip sat up, their eyes glinting like kids on Christmas morning. Candace crossed her arms, her diamond bracelet catching the light. I sank lower in my chair, bracing for disappointment. I didn't expect much, maybe the chess set, maybe the medals. But Mia sat tall, her small smile unnerving, like she knew the ending to a story I hadn't read. Mr. Abernathy's voice carried on, steady and slow. "To my nephews, Jake and Philip, I leave my fishing cabin in Willow Creek and my vintage car collection, to be split evenly." Jake pumped his fist, grinning at Philip. "Told you," he muttered. Philip clapped him on the shoulder, already talking about selling the cars. Their wives beamed, whispering about vacation homes. My stomach twisted. The cabin was where they'd spent weekends with Uncle Richard, laughing by the lake. The cars, his pride and joy, were worth a fortune. They were getting everything, just like they'd planned. I felt smaller, my years of care shrinking to nothing. But Mia didn't move. Her smile grew, just a fraction, her fingers still on that journal. I glanced at her, my pulse racing. She wasn't surprised. She wasn't upset. She looked ready. Mr. Abernathy turned the page, his eyes scanning the text. "And now," he said, his tone shifting, "to my beloved niece Rachel, who showed me what family truly means when others were too busy to remember." The room froze. Jake's grin vanished. Philip's hand stopped midair. Candace's mouth dropped open. My breath caught, my mind spinning. What was happening? Mia's eyes met mine, bright and certain. "It's okay, Mom," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "This is where it starts." Her words sent a shiver down my spine. The journal in her hand seemed to pulse with secrets, and I knew right then that Uncle Richard had planned something bigger than any of us expected. What would you do if family mocked you at a moment meant to honor someone you loved? Share your thoughts in the comments. Mr. Abernathy's words hung in the air like a thunderclap. To my beloved niece Rachel, who showed me what family truly means when others were too busy to remember, I leave my primary residence, my savings account, and my war medals. The room stopped breathing. Heart slammed against my ribs, shock rooting me to the chair. Uncle Richard's house, his cozy two-story with the porch swing where we'd shared 1,000 stories, was mine. His savings, enough to secure Mia's future, were mine. His war medals, the ones he'd pinned on his jacket in old photos, were mine. I blinked, tears prickling, as years of quiet loyalty flooded back. He'd seen me. He'd chosen me. Jake's chair scraped back, his face red. "What?" he shouted, cutting Mr. Abernathy off. "That's gotta be a mistake. She's not even his kid." Philip jumped up, his tie askew, pointing at the lawyer. "This is ridiculous. We're his nephews. We deserve that house." Candace clutched her purse, her nails digging into the leather, while Jake's wife hissed, "She's a nobody! This is a scam!" Their voices overlapped, a chaotic mess of outrage, and I sat there, stunned, their earlier laughter now replaced by desperation. It felt good, like a weight lifting off my chest. I glanced at Mia. She hadn't moved, but her eyes sparkled, her small smile sharp as a blade. Her fingers rested on the leather journal, steady, like she'd been waiting for this chaos to unfold. The room's noise didn't faze her. She looked like Uncle Richard when he'd checkmate an opponent. Calm, certain, unstoppable. My pulse raced. What was in that journal? What had he trusted her with? I'd spent years caring for him, but Mia, my 12-year-old, held the key to something bigger. Her confidence lit a fire in me, burning away the shame their taunts had left. Mr. Abernathy raised a hand, his voice firm. "Please, sit down. The will is clear and I'm not finished." Jake huffed, slumping back, while Philip crossed his arms, glaring at me like I'd stolen something. I straightened, my hands no longer trembling. For the first time that day, I felt solid, like Uncle Richard's love had rebuilt me. He'd known what family meant. He'd seen my late-night drives to his house, my pots of stew, my patience when he forgot my name. Jake and Philip had their fishing trips, their car rides, but I had his heart. And now, I had his legacy. Mia stirred, her chair creaking as she stood. The room turned to her, their angry eyes narrowing at this kid in a too-big black dress. She held the journal to her chest, her voice clear and steady. "Uncle Richard wanted me to read something," she said, her words slicing through the tension. "He said it's time everyone knows the truth." My breath caught. Jake's jaw tightened, and Philip's smirk faltered. Candace whispered to Jake's wife, "What's she talking about?" But Mia didn't flinch. She opened the journal, her small hands precise, like she'd rehearsed this moment. My heart pounded. She looked so sure, like she'd been waiting for this exact second her whole life. I stared at her, my mind racing. Uncle Richard had given her that journal 2 weeks before he died, his hands weak but his eyes sharp. "Keep this safe, tactician," he'd told her, a secret smile on his face. I hadn't thought much of it then, just another gift for his favorite chess partner. But now, with Mia standing tall, the room's air crackling, I knew it was more. She was about to change everything. Her eyes met mine, a flicker of pride passing between us. "It's okay, Mom," she said softly, "just for me. This is what he wanted." The clock ticked louder, the office's stuffy air pressing in. Jake shifted, his fists clenched. Philip's glare darted between Mia and Mr. Abernathy. Their wives sat rigid, their earlier confidence gone. Mia's voice, when she started reading, would shatter this room. I could feel it. What truth was she holding? What had Uncle Richard planned? Have you ever seen someone get exactly what they deserved at the perfect moment? Tell us in the comments. We'll be reading everyone. Mia's voice cut through the law office like a blade, clear and unshaken. She stood, barely taller than the desk, her black dress slightly crooked, but her grip on Uncle Richard's journal was iron. The room's chaos, Jake's red-faced glare, Philip's tight fists, their wives' sharp whispers, faded as she spoke. Uncle Richard wrote this for today, she said, her eyes scanning the pages. He wanted everyone to know the truth. My heart pounded, pride swelling as my 12-year-old took control. I'd felt small under my cousin's taunts, but now, watching Mia, I stood taller. This was Uncle Richard's justice, and Mia was his voice. She flipped a page, her finger tracing his spidery handwriting. Jake asked for a loan last year, she read, her tone steady. Said it was for his business. I gave him $10,000, but he bought a boat. Never paid me back. The air sucked out of the room. Jake's mouth fell open, his face flushing purple. That's not true, he stammered, his voice cracking. He's twisting things. His wife turned, her eyes narrow. A boat, Jake? You said that was a bonus! Jake sank in his chair, hands fumbling for an excuse that didn't come. Mia didn't pause, her gaze locked on the journal like a chess player mid-game. She turned another page. Philip sold my antique watch collection, she continued, her words precise. Told me it was lost. I knew he kept the money. Philip froze, his clenched fists dropping to his sides. Candace spun toward him, her voice a hiss. You said that money was from a deal. Philip's jaw worked, but no sound came out. His eyes darted to Mr. Abernathy, then to me, like I could save him. I didn't move. Their betrayal, laid bare by a child, burned away my earlier shame. Uncle Richard had trusted them, and they'd stolen from him. Mia's voice was his revenge, and it was perfect. I stood, my voice steady for the first time that day. Uncle Richard trusted you, I said, looking at Jake, then Philip. He gave you everything, his time, his money, and you betrayed him. Mia's just telling the truth. Jake's head dropped, his hands covering his face. Philip stared at the floor, his shoulders slumped. Their wives sat silent, their earlier smirks gone, their designer dresses now looking out of place. The room felt different, like the power had shifted. Mia glanced at me, a flicker of a smile passing between us. She was my daughter, but in that moment, she was Uncle Richard's warrior. Mr. Abernathy cleared his throat, holding up a folded paper. Richard left a notarized letter with these details, he said, his voice calm but firm. He documented every loan, every sale, every lie. His wishes are clear. He looked at Jake and Philip, his eyes hard. The cabin and cars are yours, as stated. But the house, savings, and medals belong to Rachel. And this journal, read by Mia, ensures no one can dispute his intent. The lawyer's words landed like a gavel. Jake's hands shook, and Philip's face twisted, like he'd been slapped. Their legacy, their pride, crumbled in front of everyone. Mia closed the journal, her small hands steady. She sat down, tucking it against her chest, her job done. I reached for her hand, my heart full. Uncle Richard had seen their greed, their neglect, and he'd planned this moment with the precision of a chess master. Mia, his tactician, had delivered the checkmate. The cousins' humiliation mirrored the sting I'd felt when they laughed at me, but this was better. Clean, final, just. I felt closure, like Uncle Richard's hand was on my shoulder saying, "You're enough." The office was a mess of silence and shock. Jake muttered to himself, avoiding his wife's glare. Philip's fingers twitched, like he wanted to argue but knew he'd lost. Candace and Jake's wife gathered their purses, their faces pale, no longer whispering. Mia and I sat together, unbroken, our bond stronger than ever. Uncle Richard's truth had torn their world apart, and we were still standing. What's the most epic way you've seen someone expose a liar? If this story touched something in you today, if you felt that satisfaction when truth finally came to light, consider subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you help these powerful stories reach others who might be waiting for their own moment of vindication. There are so many more tales of justice served waiting to be told, and I promise you'll never look at family gatherings the same way again. Until next time, remember that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one holding all the cards. What secrets might you be missing right in front of you? Share your stories in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping revenge.